Watch Brian Stark's version of that. Yeah, we're all hanging out, having a good time, but they're using that good time not standing over the golf ball, hitting balls, talking to their boys. Like they're sitting down, taking a minute, talking to the crew. But when they're right here, there's a mission being accomplished every single time. But that's what's nice about playing Southern California high school golf, right? Is you have the opportunity to play against players that, you know, if you're beating those guys, you're beating a lot of the nation's best. Yep. And that's, sure. That's what I always loved about San Diego Junior Golf. I mean, just San Diego Junior Golf in general. Best junior golf association, in my opinion, in the world, arguably. And they just, you know, they for a city, it just doesn't get any better. No. You know, you're not going to go anywhere around the country and find more quality players. So, you know, it's really cool. I mean, it's just. Anyways, all right, bud. Nice socks, dude. Pull those up real quick. Show the camera. Yep, that's what I'm talking about. Hey, but dude, listen. If you're gonna be wearing those socks, yeah, you hold on a second here. No rounds above. I mean, if with those socks, no rounds above 72. Like, I mean, let's just be honest here. You know, you're faking it if you're rocking those socks and posting 84, dude. All right, no. Okay, so this is good. This guy right here is one of my longtime students. I actually met Xander when this is a pretty funny story. When I was walking with Bo for the, gosh, was it the Pro-Am? It was a practice or a Pro-Am? The Monday Pro-Am. Yeah. On the South course, I believe. On 18 on the South course, this guy walks up like, look at this. So if we stand up now, like, you know what I mean? It's not even good. But like when he walked up, he was like this big. And he goes, you know, Mr. Haas, I'm here to carry your bag down the 18th hole. And he was just caddying for Bo. And Bo goes, hit this. And gives him the 3-wood, which are like all clubs off the deck, you know. We're looking at 15 degrees aloft, and this thing's 6 inches too long. And he had pretty good. I mean, it was a pretty darn good swing. And that's when I looked at his dad and I said, hey, I can make this guy pretty good. But, you know, Xander's had, you know, he ton of talent, being pretty heavily recruited right now. It's like his go time. And we're just trying to get the most out of this beautiful swing because it's a great swing. So we're just trying to get the most out of it and start this year off the right way. Start shooting some low scores. Okay, so let's just go through it a little bit. Some putting obviously is a thing that we really need to dig into and really just see is, you know, let me ask you guys this. With the putting, because we've been talking about the putting, we've been talking about trying to get the pre-shot routine sharpened up, talking about how we practice, all that stuff. Big thing I want to go over is there a type of putt you tend to miss more? Are you nailing the left to righters, missing right to lefters? Is it just all of them there are not quite getting in the hole?
I don't think there's like really a certain type of putt that I've been like kind of really struggling with. Mm-hmm. I think it's just kind of all the above.
All the above? Let me ask you this. Are you finding that when you're around the hole from 5 to 10 feet, like 5 to 10 feet, I'm not checking your speed on 3 to 5 footers because I'm hoping that's decent. On 5 to 10 feet, do you have a good feel for the speed? Because what I'm trying to get after here is we've talked about pre-shot routine. Pre-shot routine to me was a big one because we can agree. I'm sitting here with Dad, who Dad watches a lot of Xander's golf, obviously, so we're a good team. We work together here, but he doesn't have a bad stroke. We've been over this, and putting's been a little bit of a thing lately. We're just not making as many as we need. You hit 16 greens, you said in the last round of your tournament, shot 2 under this last week in that last round. How many putts did you have inside 15 feet for birdie?
Quite a few.
Quite a few?
Not many went in.
Not many, okay. Two putt birdies on par 5s? I'm just kidding. Okay, well, listen, I want you to be good about, you know, Dad and I always say it when you walk up. We're like, Xander, talk. Like, you know, give us something, right? So the whole point is, Coach, my speed sucks from inside 10 feet. I just don't, I leave some short, some go 2 feet past. I'm just not repetitively getting them past the front edge and going a 1.5 foot past. That's one thing that I take for granted. I consider myself, and those who've watched me, putting is my thing. Like hit the ball straight, keep it in play, don't take unnecessary penalty shots. It was always my game. Chip and putt the lights out of it, right? I mean, that just makes sense. Great ball striking without putting is like great pitching with no run support. Doesn't matter how good you pitch. You can throw one, have one home run, 9 great innings of baseball. Your team doesn't give you any help. You're still losing 1-0. With that being said, we want you to have clarity about what it is that you are doing on the greens. For me, I take for granted, and you guys watch, we've done numerous putting contests together. It's always our thing. We have a putting contest every lesson. My speed's impeccable, right? It always has been. And that's been, it wasn't always like that. My dad and I had to work really hard to have a plan to do that. We had a rule. If the golf course was within an hour of where I was living, and I had a tournament that weekend, we found a way to get to that golf course during that week with just my putter. We would just take the putter out, maybe even like a sand wedge, just to do some bump and runs around the green to see how they're reacting and running out. But I had a focused practice to where I just worked on that for an hour, just an hour at the end of school, after school one day. And if it was out at 2 hours away or more, or hour away or more, and Dad and I couldn't get out there, well, then I would adjust my pregame warm up to where it was no longer an hour and 10 minutes before I'd show up for a round. That was always my thing, hour and 10 minutes. 10 minutes for bathroom and food, 30 minutes kind of thing, range and putting green. But I would then be an hour and a half, and I would show up and I would initially putt for 15 minutes, then do my thing, go to the range, and then go back to putting again, right? So that was something that I did to at least give myself an idea. High school golf was a big one. I learned to be a great speed putter in high school golf because one thing that I was taught in high school golf swing and the hitting, it doesn't change. The swing. The swing changes from day to day. I get that a little bit, but you guys are young and you're loose. What's good about going on the range when you have 6 guys trying to alternate between 2 spots to hit 5 balls before you play? Just grab 2 clubs and swing them back and forth for 10 minutes and you're going to be just as loose, right? The whole point is get over to the putting green, spend all your time there, because that's where the greens are going to be changing from day to day on every course you play. I mean, gosh, even the same course sometimes from day to day, they just don't cut them because it's going to be hot one day in Southern Cal, or the frost is on the greens one morning, they don't have time to cut them. Another day it's firm and fast and they mowed them and rolled them. All right, so my whole point to you is this. Have a plan for yourself. Let's knock out the variables. We don't have to sit here and wonder all the things we need to do better. We're going to look at the stroke number 1 today, make sure it's rolling the ball on line. Left to right putts, right to left putts. Straight putt no matter what, right? Get the ruler out. You saw me do that. I put that up on Instagram the other day. Great way for you to get better. What I love about that, for 4 inches of the backstroke, the putter should be going back straight before it starts to naturally arc, right? We're not creating the arc. The hands are going straight back, but because the putter's at an extension of the body, it will naturally arc. But for 4 inches of that backstroke, we want to keep it pretty dead straight. Now, whether that's a left to right putt or right to left putt, that needs to be a constant. What's great about the ruler, and we're making a training aid right now that has a little Porzak P on a little black, just like our putting plate, same black material, but just the P. It's at the 8-inch mark. So you have 4 inches behind you to keep the putter straight back. And then you have 8 inches in front of you to see your starting line. But what's great is we're going to get our players start to line that up everywhere, whether it's a left to right, right to left putt, straight putt no matter what, right? Yeah. And that'll at least eliminate the variable of your stroke and starting the ball on line. The next thing is your rhythm. Rhythm's everything. Rhythm and the distance you take the putt back are speed, right? So you have those 2 variables. So if we work on straight putt no matter what, get it locked in, good setup that promotes a straight stroke, that's one part. We then work on good rhythm. The good rhythm then allows you to adjust the length of your backstroke to get the right speed. So what are we doing here? Get it straight putt no matter what. Get the good rhythm. We just took a whole bunch of stuff that it could be and narrowed it down, right? Yeah. Then I've always been big on working on your pre-shot routine. Because you have a good stroke, I always thought, man, there's got to be something that you're just not connecting to in the putt. Because what do? We hit a lot of edges, right? You had that happen all last year. I mean, you were shooting some rounds in the 60s and hitting 5, 6 edges, and you guys are talking about lipping out. Well, are we connecting enough to our line? Are we getting locked into our line? Or do we just not have the perfect speed every single time? And I'm thinking about all the putting contests that we've had, and I've been putting them together over the last few weeks. The one thing that strikes me, your speed's just not up to par with where you see mine at every time. Dad's watch and witness every single one of our putting contests. Every putt I hit, it's like, dang, that thing has a chance, right? Up until the last minute, and it ends around the hole in the same spot. We'll be hitting that 7-footer sometimes. That thing comes up like 8 inches short left. And then all of a sudden, you're run one 3.5 feet by or something. I really want to work today on making sure that you have a system for your speed control. Okay, so we can talk about something simple that'll allow you to do that. One thing that I just want to recommend, and this is great for the viewers, have a plan, right? Always. And when we talk about a plan, don't just say, oh, hey, I'm just going to work on my speed control. What are you going to do about your speed control? Dad and I had a good one. Hey, golf course within an hour. We found a way to get there that week. If we don't have a chance to, out of town, whatever, hey, I'm altering my pregame warm-up to accommodate that and work on my speed control a little bit more. Well, now we need to talk about when we get to that green, what are we doing to make sure we have it? And that's where, you just have to putt with a little bit of common sense. I like to start in short. I've always been about that. Get your line down. But one thing that's important is find a realistic hole on the green that you feel would be realistic to what you're putting on the golf course. Don't go at the bottom of that green over there where you see the green like this, but our golf course doesn't have any hills like that. So you want to find a realistic putt uphill, putt downhill, putt side hill, and get a feel for how hard you're hitting these putts to get them to die in or to hit the edge, at least where you're catching edges and having the ball have a chance to go in. So I just think that for us, we don't have to make more out of it than it needs to be, but we do need to dig into it a little bit more. It still, I don't believe, is as much stroke related as it is just confidence, but confidence coming from better preparation and having preparation be actually thoughtful to, well, what are we trying to accomplish here? We're trying to make the ball get over that front edge every time. Never up, never in. As Dad said, no low side Larry. As we call him, low side Larry. I mean, you'll hear it today. If it's low side, low side Larry. And he hates it, but it's really funny to me. It's especially funny when I hear Xander gets kind of pissed off when Dad will say it, on like the 8th hole of a tournament. But we make a joke. I mean, this guy will be at the Masters someday. It doesn't matter. 72nd hole, putt to win. I mean, if it's a 2-putt to win and that first putt's low side, I'm going to be the first guy. Low side Larry.
Yep. Right there with him.
We like to give him a little bit of, we give him a tough time, but he needs it. He's going to be mentally tough. But anyways, hey, so we're kind of game planning the day. We got a couple hours, so we have time to do this. I'm already, once again, looking at a pretty darn good golf swing. We're going to go through the bag, figure out what it is that we need to do better to keep moving forward. You're going to see this is a really good golf swing. Chipping. You were chipping like a god about a month and a half, 2 months ago. Like it was, remember that? Genius. and it was for a while. Kind of got a little bit rocky there for a minute, but then how are we doing now?
I think we're good now.
Are we good now?
Yeah.
You getting back to the,
Yeah.
not hitting 60 on every shot?
Yep, trying.
We got this dormant Bermuda, out around California right now. And the leading edge of a 60 and the bounce on a 60, I tell these guys, is just, it's not ideal always to hit a 60 when you especially don't need to hit a 60. So there's a couple things here, strategy-wise, that I think can lower some shots. Better strategy putting, good club selection around the greens for chipping. Those are a couple things I think can knock off easy shots for us, if just knowing your game the way I do. We'll start in like this. We'll organize it today. Let's, a few people on the putting green. So what we'll do is we'll start off here. Let's look through the bag. We'll go short irons, mid irons. We'll go right into the driver. We'll go over to the putting green, and we'll really dig into it today. I'll film some left to righters, right to lefters, which is great, so you can see if there's a difference between the stroke from left to right to right to left. We then can talk about how we can make it consistent, and then talk about a little regimen for our speed control. But the easiest thing for both of you guys, if we're not putting with a metronome, don't wonder why the speed control's off. I mean, it's just the stroke will fizzle out on a downhill putt. It'll jolt on a uphill putt. Everyone does it. On a left to right putt, people get a little out and pull it. On the right to left putt, people get a little in and push it. So, you know, we just need to know these things, have a way at working away from them, the ruler.
Yeah.
Easy. My dad used to back in the day before we had any like devices, you know what my dad would do? It was the best. He'd go up and he'd be like, hey, where are you playing this one? And I'd be like, 6 inches outside right. He'd go, okay. He'd kind of line a club up and he'd get his credit card, just take the edge and just make a little dash in the green. You could just tap down and fix the green, but he'd make a little dash right behind my ball, right in line with my 6-inch mark. And that way it just controlled the first few inches of my stroke, right? And it just was always a nice line for me, that straight putt no matter what thought process. It doesn't change what we need to do right, which is going through our process of, oh, how can we check that? Hang our hands square, ball position, grip, right in line with my zipper, ball 1 inch ahead of that, eyes over ball, hang the putter down, hands under shoulders, hang the hands and being in line with the grip. There's a series of little checkpoints we can go through. Learn that from Luke Donald and my mentor, Todd Stones, going through those checkpoints for ball position, for eyes over ball, for hands under shoulders, for square shoulders. I love this one. Oh. Now I'm square, right? You know, just simple ones like that. That's the train track of your putting stroke, the shoulders, not the feet. We see great players like this. We've seen players like this. We've seen typically, you know, square to a little bit opens on the PGA Tour, right? But not always dead square with the feet, but the shoulders are right in line. Shoulders and forearms and the putter, they match. And that's what's going to dictate that. So I will look at that. Doesn't change that. That ruler could help that right away. Right? So if we had something that we can just do continuously throughout the year, that's something that, you know, would make a huge difference. You know, when I was working with Bo, when he was really killing it in college, right? And just getting into the pros, it was a lot of ruler work. He would put that thing on, he would get the yardstick actually, right? And put it on the lip of the hole, and it'd be a 3-footer right at the end of the stick, and he would just run that thing down that line all day. And that was something that, you know, really helped his process. And it just did it over and over and over. It wasn't like it was any, you know, we just knew that it worked. So why not do it over and over and over? We need to find more stuff like that this year. So, you know, not just a day-to-day touch and go, but like, hey, we do this all the time. This is our recipe. And if we aren't having an easy time keeping it on the ruler, that's when I step in and I say, well, what is it in the setup? Or what is it with the rhythm that's getting off? Because to me, really, the only 2 things in your stroke that would get off, and I mean, this isn't a guess, this is like just knowing you, it would just be setup and alignment and simply rhythm. And I think if we can narrow it down today, guys, and make sure we just have checkpoints for setup, make sure we have the rhythm perfect, we're good. So that's going to be the putting. And then in the short game, like I said, I'm not worried about that because I know your motion's great. I think it still boils down to just knowing, hey, off this lie, I know you can hit this club. But what is the absolute easiest club to hit and the best shot, the type of shot to hit that will allow you to slightly mishit it and still get a good outcome? You guys always see that. I mean, my chips end up pretty close, but it's like, they don't always sound great. I mean, I just picked a shot that you couldn't really biff on, you know what I mean? It wasn't a shot that was gonna go either 3 feet in front of me or 30 feet over. It was like, even if I hit it bad, it was still gonna kind of be okay, right? That's all shot selection. So, all right, buddy, well, let's get into it now. Let's get the swing going.
You know what they say, every putt's straight, right?
Yeah, I just want to you know, for Xander, and I'm not just doing this because the camera's on. Gabe could edit the crap out of this today, you know? This stuff is not gonna be, you know, we're gonna, butch it up and make it, you know, nice, whatever. But I'm just saying, I'm talking to him because I want to have a plan for this guy. You know, I'll be honest with you. There's no reason why we can't be the top player in your class, dude. I mean, I'm serious about that. I'm not even joking. I'm not trying to have you be a top, 50 guy. Like, I'm trying to get you to be the best player in your class. There's a reason why these coaches like Coach Murray from Washington say that you have, man, I just like the way Xander just holds the club. You know, he's not talking about this. He just says the way he sits on the tee box and just holds the golf club. He just is a golfer. He's a golfer. He has all the golf swag. We just need to figure out the recipe. So, let's break it down. Without talking about golf swing for a second, for you and Dad, what can you guys do at Coda de Casa, which is a good practice facility, better than most, right? Better than most. It's a course that you guys are at Club Corp Golf Club. just like Bernardo Heights is. But you know, you guys have, from what I've heard, there's a lot of great players out there. And that's partly to do with, you know, not only is it a great area, but it's a good practice facility. You got 2 golf courses, big range, and you got, you know, areas to practice. Scoring components of the game. You need to be awesome inside 100 yards. Simple as that. 70% of your score occurs within 70 yards of the green. So why don't we should just do every single day a wedge distance control, like a wedge distance combine. I know it's easy when you have a TrackMan or a Flight Scope. I get it. But I did this without any technology back in the day, and it still, to me, is one of the greatest ways to do it. You know, just get down the left side of a range and gun 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, and just plug away at those yardages, right? Maybe you have a regiment that goes 5 to each coming back, and then dad starts calling out random ones, and you just kind of randomize it. But you have a allotted. I'm going to start with this. When my career turned for the better, right before my shoulder operation, I started playing some really good competitive golf professionally coming out of college. I started timing my practice, meaning I just said, hey, I'm doing 15 minutes of this, I'm doing 20 minutes of this, I'm doing 20 minutes of this, and then I'm ending with 15 minutes of this. And then I'm leaving 10 minutes for whatever I felt I didn't do best. I'm gonna go back and do one more time. But no matter how I did, I kept moving and I kept moving on. I didn't get stuck doing one thing, right? How many of us get stuck hitting 7-iron on the range for 20, 30 minutes so unnecessarily because it has no effect on your score whatsoever? It just makes you feel good personally because you're working on your golf swing, right? So I just want you to have a really goal-oriented practice where we have our wedge distance control knocked out. You then have, okay, here are my irons, and here's where maybe I take 10 minutes to really work on my move and work on my swing. But your swing's never that far off anymore these days, dude. It's always pretty tight. So you should be really just hitting shots to targets out there and playing a little game with yourself for 10 minutes, then picking, 14 fairways and hitting 14 drives to fairways that you have made between poles, some a little bit harder, some a little bit easier. Change the angles on the range. I used to change the shadows and all the things that made golfers feel weird about over the golf ball. Hit, 7 drives over here, hit 7 drives on the other side. Go hit 5 minutes of irons over there, go hit 5 minutes of irons down here. Different angles, different ways to look at it. That helps. But you have to think about your game and think about where you're going to try to gain shots. Most of our score is happening within 100 yards, so let's try to figure out our wedge distance control and have a system for that. Cool. That works all the way up to the edge of the green, where I would say, God, if you're hitting 70% from 70 yards, I would go as far as saying 55 to 60% would be just from 20 feet off the edge of the green to the green alone, with 40% of your score being putting alone, right? So, gosh, man, we need to be really good with the short game. So obviously that was where the score is going to come down. How about driver?
It's been pretty good.
Pretty good?
My tournament in Arizona, I think, was pretty good, but the past couple of days, I've noticed that I was set up really open while I was hitting it, so I've been trying to fix that.
Feet?
A little bit. Yeah, feet.
Okay.
That's what I kind of noticed, so I tried to kind of get it back, but I haven't really had a lot of time to work on it. Since I noticed it, this is 2 days ago.
Driver, scoring clubs, and people think scoring clubs are like a 9-iron, 8-iron. I love when people say that, and then you go and look at the average proximity from the hole with a touring pro with a 9-iron, you're like, all right, it's 30 feet. So is that a scoring club? No. It's, once again, a middle of the green club, and if you have a green light on a really easy pin, well, then go for the pin. But my whole point to that is practice your scoring clubs more, which really are pitching wedge down. It's really, and I'll extend that out. I'll include the 9 in there anyways, but I would say 150 and in, proximity from the hole. That's what you're working on, right? And let's just make that from the edge of the green all the way to 150. Have a system that you guys have that does that. Mine was picking targets on the range and making it feel a little bit more like I'm on a golf course. But then what my dad and I would do is we'd go out, we'd have the driver in hand, and we basically only do the 9-iron and down. So we would hit drivers all day, hit 3 or 4 drives off the tee, work on the driver, and then he would drop balls from 150 and in. And I just worked on my distance control, proximity from the hole. Those were the big ones, right? So,
I honestly feel with him sometimes he's at the golf course too much, meaning he's on the range for 4 hours.
right.
And maybe he has a plan for the first hour, and then his buddies come and they kind of do whatever they do, and then he kind of jumps in there. So I think it's great hanging out at the golf course that long, but I think you're right. I think that hour, one of those hours needs to be really structured.
Listen, it's when you're a young golfer, how do you not hang out the course with your boys and just have fun? I mean, I would be out there all day. But here's the thing. I'd love to see you guys watch Cameron Sisk's version of that and watch Brian Stark's version of that, where, yeah, we're all hanging out, having a good time, but they're using that good time not standing over the golf ball, hitting balls, talking to their boys. Like they're sitting down, taking a minute, talking to the crew. But when they're right here, there's a mission being accomplished every single time. I watch when when Brian comes into town, he hangs out here at the course all day. It's unbelievable to watch him. The way he goes from station to station, and it's not like he's sitting there grinding for 2 hours in one spot at all. He's just 15 minutes on, 15 minutes off, 10 minutes on, 10 minutes off, right? Just taking really focused, detailed attention to what he's doing at that time to get the most out of those few minutes that he's working on it. Nothing different than when, back in the day at UT Golf Club, go over and hang out with Bo a little bit. We'd go into the hitting bay for 10 minutes and give it just 10 minutes of just the hardest work you've ever seen, and then go play ping pong for 20 minutes, and then come on back and, go back for 20 minutes again and just get after it, right? And every swing mattered. Every swing mattered. And that's where, when you get the 4-hour session, you get a lot of swings in there that don't really matter. And that's where it gets real slappy, and that's where bad habits come from. So I would encourage you that, okay, if you're at the golf course for that long, hit less. Meaning, when you are hitting, be 100% absorbed into what you're doing. And maybe you're not necessarily working on your swing, but you should be working on getting the ball as close to that hole as possible. You should be working on making putts or whatever it is that you're doing. It's just having a set process. And I don't care if we take 5 minutes at the end of the day, 10 minutes to write this stuff down and just say, hey, we're going to stick to this game plan for 1 month, and we're going to see what that does to our scoring average and see if we can get something out of it that way. Because like I said, when I look at you, Xander, I look at the bones of it's all there. It's all there. It's all there to shoot the scores we need to. You prove it all the time, by the way. Even through bad play for you, you always, even after the one round, you'll throw in an under par round right after. You do it all the time. It's just a matter of, we need to see those 3 under par rounds back to back to back, right? And then once that happens, you start picking up W's. So, all right, bud, let's get after it. Let's get after it. I know we did a lot of talking up front there, but I just want to make sure that we have a game plan, get your mind turning a little bit to just come up with something, right? Well, let's simplify it, though. We talked about a lot, but we can make it real easy. So,